it is raining outside, and I'm here, and I'm excited to be here because tonight we're going to have a really good show. But first of all, I would just want to say Happy Mother's Day for people on Sunday, because I will totally forget that because my mother's not here, and they had Mother's Day, I think, a couple of weeks early in England. And my mother is incapacitated. She has Alzheimer's, and is in a nursing home in England, and wouldn't know what day it was anyway. But she's my mother, and she's my mother with Alzheimer's, and you just kind of deal with it. So what have I been up to? I had a really bad experience last week, and what it showed me was that I practice what I preach. I practice what I teach, building confidence, self-esteem, owning my voice, speaking my truth, really stepping into when I see something is not appropriate for me, really calling it to my attention, and then reaching out to the people that needs to be done. And sometimes I bump up against people who just, rather than accepting that what you say to them, they can't hear you, they don't hear you, and they don't listen. They listen to themselves. They make their own opinions and judgments. They step over what you have to say. They make you wrong. But what I've learned from myself over the years of doing my work, doing my business, is that I don't have to react and get upset, right? But I can also just stand in what I believe and have a B plan in, like, if I can't get if I can't get a response that's going to move this thing forward, then I have to be courageous enough to go to the people that can make this happen, and really stand in it. And you'll see when people are just not being sloppy, or they're not doing the work, they'll start to backpedal when they realize that you are really committed to what you're saying you're going to do. And then they'll try to blame other people, won't take responsibility. But at the end of the day, like, when they know that they know, because you make it kind of clear that I made it clear that I was going to take steps. This person went to the people, the powers that be, so to speak, had a conversation with them, came back to me. She refused to eat crow, right? She refused to eat the crow, but she had to make a change. I'm not going to talk about what it was, but what I feel is like really stepping into like owning my voice and speaking my truth and living life my way. It's really important. And, if I was 20 years old, you could step over and say, oh, I got over. But I'm not 20 years old, and I can't step over stuff and say I got over. And I have to call myself into being, thus call the other person into being. And I really am in gratitude for who I'm becoming in my life. So on that note, we are going to have a conversation about one of the subjects that if you are a regular listener to this show, you hear me say things like, oh my God, I'm sweating like a dog. Or, oh, I'm so hot. You'll hear me say these things all the time. My sister in England, shout out to Shula, is always saying to me, nobody wants to know how hot you are. And nobody wants to know that you're sweating like a dog, right? So just get over it. Well, tonight, I can take sweating like a dog to the extremes, because I have with me Dr. Christian Siebert. Did I do it right? And as you all know, I always mess up people's names, right? And so she is a doctor of Chinese medicine, holistic practitioner, and also an acupuncturist who is like fully trained, very well trained, very smart lady. And we're going to talk about menopause tonight. One of my not so favorite subjects, but it is a part of my life. So welcome to the show.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Noreen. It's a pleasure to be here.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I'm really excited. just getting the microphone right. Great. Thank you, Sam.
So,
when I first met you last year, I remember vividly how
sweaty.
not just how sweaty you were, but you told me how this all had really caught you by surprise,
God, what?
And so we had a lovely conversation then and came up with the idea to really bring this to your radio audience.
Absolutely.
And so I just wanted to kind of actually have you start telling us what your experience was.
But first I want you to just give us a little background, because you got that big old accent, right? People are going to, where is she from? Like, what is she about? Like, so I want you to share a little bit about you, where are you from? What was your history? How did you get into this medicine? Like, how did you get into this practice? Was this something that was innate to you? It was an interest, or, how did you do it? And so just give us a little bit of background.
Yeah, I actually always had a very strong interest in the healing arts, even as a teenager. But I was not really all that intrigued with conventional medicine at the time when I had to make a decision about, where I would go in terms of studying and pursuing a profession. At the same time, I was also performing a lot as a musician, as a jazz musician. And so I eventually made the decision, I leave medical school to my sister, which is what she did. And I went to music conservatory and became a jazz musician, which is also what brought me to the United States about 30 years ago
from, you're coming
from Germany.
Right, cool.
Yeah, so I came here to go to grad school and eventually work as a professional musician in New York City. What really...
I'm having a moment right now, but it's a cold one.
What really got me interested in Chinese medicine in particular was after 9/11, I realized I really wanted to work with people and help them be healthier, live their life to the fullest. And because I had health issues myself at the time, specifically I had pretty severe low back pain and found that acupuncture was just incredibly helpful to get me back on my feet without surgery, without medication. I was just completely blown away by it and really fascinated.
I have a client for you.
And that eventually, made me decide, that's what I want to do, sticking needles in people. That's really cool stuff.
And voodoo is not included.
Yeah, exactly. And little did I know, how complex Chinese medicine is. I eventually also started, studying not just acupuncture, but also herbal medicine, which is a huge part of Chinese medicine, and which is, in terms of our subject for tonight, really where the money is, in my opinion. So Chinese herbal therapy is really incredibly powerful and effective way for people with menopausal symptoms to find relief. And we can talk about that, of course, a little bit more in detail.
Cool. I think that, you said herbal medicine, but doesn't every culture experience use of herbal medicine?
That's right on. That's very true. And of course, in different parts of the world, different plants grow and animals live, which are also sometimes included in herbal medicine, but primarily it's of course botanicals. So each, culture has its own tradition, and I think nowadays it's recognized that probably the most sophisticated herbal tradition is the one in China and surrounding countries. I think Ayurveda in India is a close second. And then also herbal traditions in other parts of the world, and especially where I'm from in Germany, we also have a very strong history and tradition of naturopathic medicine that includes botanicals and also homeopathy, of course. But other countries, including North America, Native American culture, for example, also has a very strong herbal tradition.
Right, and African cultures, and Caribbean cultures.
And also South America, even, Australia has...
they have the indigenous Aboriginal.
Exactly. And because that part of the world was separated from the rest, of the continents very early on, they actually have a lot of plants that don't exist anywhere else. A good example is tea tree. Right. Everyone's familiar with tea tree oil. Obviously, you don't find that anywhere else. And
it only grows in Australia?
Yeah.
Unless it's grown in some bootleg kind of, what do you call it, hothouse?
Yeah. So along those lines, also I think it's important to know that obviously, humanity's been around for a long time, and each of these cultures has also been confronted with what women go through in midlife and have found different ways to deal with that.
Right. More so than pharma.
Well, pharma has only been around for a very short
Right.
period of time,
Right.
but almost every traditional culture has found other ways to make women comfortable
Right.
during the transition, and support the health of people as they age.
Right.
And
I'm aging.
yeah, we're
Oh
aging.
my
We're all
God.
aging.
But you know what? We're aging from the day we're born. So
Yeah,
like it's
yeah,
just
exactly.
it just starts to accumulate as we get like higher in the numbers. So okay, so ask me some questions.
So tell me a little bit, Noreen, since I remember our conversation last year, and I thought it would be a great way into the subject
Right.
if we actually started with your own experience.
So it's been going on about 2 years now, right?
Mhm.
So the first experience that I had was, I've always been like a person that sweated at night. So I've always been hot at night. I remember my ex-husband used to say to me, "Get away from me." Like, in the summertime, he'd be like, "Get off of me, you're hot." And in the wintertime, he'd be all snuggled up under me because I was like really hot. And so I never really paid any of that stuff any mind because that was normal. So one night, one night, I'm in bed and I'm just profoundly hot and I'm sweating like a banshee. And I'm kicking the covers off and I'm putting them on. I'm kicking them off and putting them on. I'm like, what the? Finally, I was sweating so bad. I jumped out of bed like somebody was chasing me. And I started walking around the living room and going, what the hell is wrong with me? What the hell is wrong with me? Something is wrong. Something is wrong. Am I sick? Do I need to go to the hospital? Because I was sweating. I was burning up. Then it was like this little whisper. Maybe you're going through menopause. Right. And I was like, oh, I can, if it's menopause, I can deal with that. It's not a big deal. And that's how it started. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that you also told me that it kind of caught you by surprise,
Yes.
And I think this is something I really want to bring up tonight, is that most of us, we don't know what's coming our way, unless you happen to go to medical school and learn all about it, most of us. Or
you have women that talk about it, right?
Yeah.
Like women and elders that talk about it. It hit me like I didn't know what to do with this thing. I didn't know what this thing was. I didn't know, I've heard about it, but I heard about it in ways like this. My own personal summers.
Right.
I'm getting a flash, right? Things like that. And, but never like somebody talking about it honestly.
Yeah, it's like there's that stigma,
Right.
attached to it. And I wonder why that is. I mean, obviously, it could be that
it's age.
That, we're aging and people are concerned
people
about
have it that we're losing our sexy.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
We're going to have to hold that thought and we'll be right back.
Sounds
good. You're listening to the Talking Alternative Network.
You're listening to the Talking Alternative Network. Are you stuck in a rut? Negative thoughts, feelings, and conversations got you down? Hi, I'm Noreen Sumter, the Potentiator. Tune in every Tuesday at 9 to 10 p.m. Eastern Time and listen for new ideas on my show, Beyond Potential, Live Life Your Way, on talkradio.nyc.
Who do you want to connect with?
Are you an entrepreneur or intrapreneur looking to build your following?
Welcome to our show.
Follow Me Friday with Joan
and Priya.
Tune in every Friday at noon Eastern
on talkradio.nyc.
We're your digital connectors. Woo woo!
Talking Alternative Radio, 24 hours a day.
So we're back on Beyond Potential, Live Life Your Way. And tonight we're having menopause stories and symptoms and all of the things that help us to change and transform as women. And I'm speaking to Dr. Christiane Siebert, who is a natural homeopathic, she'll tell you. So she's an acupuncturist, a homeopathic doctor, a herbal Chinese medicine. She's a lot of things.
Yeah.
She does a lot of stuff. So we were talking on the break and saying that why women would want to avoid and not share this valuable, I think, information with younger women. It's like a rite of passage. Help us to go through that rites of passage.
Right. I think actually, we have sex education.
Oh, do we in America?
Sometimes in school, middle school, high school. The purpose of which is mostly to prevent the kids from getting pregnant too early, right? Abstinence. And then we get a little bit more information from our doctors around pregnancy sometimes, and dealing with babies. But after that, it's sort of, there's like this quiet, this blanket over things. And I really want to pull this blanket away and sort of bring our experiences.
Is it like that in Europe?
To some extent, yeah. I think it's more so here in the US. But let's change that tonight. Let's pull the curtains open,
I'm pulling my curtains wide open.
Bring menopause out of the shadows and talk about it.
Let's bring Menno out. Right. I call it pausies. Let's bring Menno. She wants to talk to us. So what are some of the symptoms that I have discovered in the last 2 years of like battling this thing? It was like literally people say, oh, you have a period, miss a period, have a period, miss a period. Well, it was like me. No period, no period, no period, period. No period, no period, no period, no period, no period, period. And what I discovered inside of having a period was that once I had a period, I got 3 months relief of no sweating. It was great. And then my girlfriend said to me, oh, don't worry about it. It's going to come back again. And I was like, no, it's not. She said, yes, it is. And it came back with a double dose.
Yeah. So what happens is that in your 40s, usually you are well orchestrated.
This happened at 54.
Hormones. Well, it's for many women, it already starts in their 40s, So your hormones that usually are like a, well-conducted orchestra start getting, a little out of sync. It's sort of like the string section's going one way, the horn section's going another way. Sometimes they come together, play a little bit, and then they go off their own ways again and create sort of this, you don't know what's coming. You might have a regular cycle, you might have a short cycle, a long cycle. Sometimes, your menses is heavier, sometimes it's lighter. So it becomes more and more unpredictable. And then you start experiencing a whole range of changes in your body. You already mentioned, hot flashes and night sweats. What else have
dry?
You?
I mean, I've always had dry skin, but my skin is drier.
Yeah.
I feel like I've lost my plump.
Yeah, the skin gets thinner. You start and as a result of it, you also start noticing wrinkles more.
Yeah, I do it when I go like this. I notice them. But for me, my sister, I love her, but she's a cow, right? So I'm at, and I mean that with all love, moo. And so I'm at the house, and I'm sitting on the bed, and I notice my sister looking at me. She's looking at me, right? I'm like this way, and she's looking at me. She says, do you realize you've got like fine lines? I'm like, yeah, I've noticed I have fine lines, right? I said, that is the menopause. I've got fine lines and I've got this sting down here. Like, I feel like this area of my face due to menopause and all the changes, I'm getting a jowl, right? Like I call it a pelican brief. And then this area under here, and my skin, even though it has good bounce back, it doesn't have brilliant bounce back like it used to have 2 years ago.
Yeah, and you also see it in other areas of your body. There's often weight redistribution. You used to have like a more pear-shaped
No,
body.
I didn't. I was plumpy and I was like a sausage.
A lot of women experience that though, and then you develop a little bit more of a belly. You develop more of an apple shape.
Right.
So that's also in part due to the hormones, to the hormonal changes,
Right.
associated with the menopause.
What else? I've noticed my legs are not as like firm and tight. I noticed that like one of the things that I do notice is like if I bang myself, it takes a little bit longer to like subside and kind of like get rid of the pain.
Yeah. So you bruise actually probably more easily too, right?
Bruise and I've actually noticed that I'm cutting myself a little bit more, like because my skin doesn't have that. It's drier.
Yeah. It's not as resilient. Yeah.
I'm just falling apart at the seams.
Well, I mean, the things we've mentioned so far, except the hot flashes and the night sweats, you could almost say, they're cosmetic things. You can probably eventually sort of deal with them. You can cover them up a little bit, or you just kind of, take a deep breath and live with it. But there are also things that women experience as menopause approaches.
Oh, fuzzy head.
Yeah, like
memory loss.
Your memory really slows down. You somehow don't remember things as
the
well.
Recall is not as sharp as it used to be.
Or like foggy headedness, you just can't think clearly. Also, a lot of women experience sleep disturbances. I mean, that could be because of the hot flashes, but it could have other reasons. More breast tenderness, and then also just internal things, bladder issues, for example. Vaginal dryness.
I don't have that. Well, nobody's told me about that, but I haven't been doing it. So
yeah. And then, all kinds of other things like joint pain.
Yeah, joint pain.
Hair thinning.
Oh, I've gotten that part.
Some women also start noticing vision problems, hearing problems. So, all kinds of things can suddenly not be working as they used to.
Oh my God. It's like the more information I'm getting, the more miserable I'm getting.
The good news is that not every woman experiences all these.
Right. But I have
symptoms,
the memory, like my recall is not as sharp. It's like I have to slow down. Okay, so if I don't remember something, I just say like, calm down, don't try to force it. It'll come out of the computer. And then it does, but it might be an hour later. No, I'm kidding. But it might be, right? And then I have fuzziness, like fuzzy. I just feel fuzzy.
Right.
I'm just much more. I've always been like hypersensitive to my body, but I'm much more aware of what's taking place, right? Also, I found that that exercise, I read an article one time where this woman, she was talking about she's going through menopause symptoms and she had this like creepy, like webbing, feeling like webbing on her skin. You know what I'm saying? Like walking through webs, right? But it felt like it was like all over her skin.
Yeah.
And what she said that she did was she exercised a lot. She did a lot of exercise. And what I have found for myself is that I've been exercising I exercise quite frequently, but I used to drop off a lot. But now I'm just much more frequent with the exercise. And I do Pilates, a lot of stretching, a lot of toning, a lot of bending, because I'm naturally a very stiff person. And I found with menopause, with the joints, in 2 years, I can't imagine what 4 is going to look like. The joints are a little bit stiffer, right? And then, but what I found is the exercise really, really helps. And for when I went away, I only exercised. I did a lot of walking, but I didn't do my Pilates.
You could tell the difference.
Tell immediately what was missing. Like I needed to like really do the exercise, because also what I find is that with the exercise, it helps the blood to circulate. And then it kind of warms up the body and I'm not as stiff. But I have to do it consistently.
Right. Yeah, that's very important. And I think it's a great time, to get serious about exercising and taking better care of yourself. Yeah. I mean, the other thing also that I encourage my patients who are in this age range, in their 40s and 50s, to really pay good attention to what they're experiencing, and also talk to their gynecologist or primary care physician about it, because, it's not always clear that whatever is changing and whatever you're experiencing is necessarily associated with perimenopause, but it could be associated with aging, combination, but it could on a rare occasion also be a sign of more serious things
Right.
to develop, such as, high cholesterol, hypertension, diabetes, and things
You get diabetes with menopause?
it's definitely a time where more women actually
'cause I have
notice
it.
these changes. And so, it's important to pay attention to yourself and also discuss these changes
Right.
with your doctor.
And to go to your doctor. I mean,
go to your doctor, yeah.
I'm for both
Mm.
alternative medicine as well as go to see your primary care, because
Mm.
I think you need to balance the two, right? Because if you learn about the doctor can only give you the baselines, and he can tell you how things are progressing if he has a baseline. But if he doesn't have a baseline, he can't tell you what's progressing. You have to start from scratch. He doesn't have a record of how you're doing.
Exactly.
So even if
yeah.
you go to a homeopathic person such as yourself, a holistic doctor, or even acupuncture, you don't have a baseline to give to that person, because you need that baseline, do you not?
Yeah, well, actually in Chinese medicine and also in other natural medicine systems, we have our own diagnostic systems. But nowadays, we're usually university trained, we have doctorate degrees, and we take all the Western diagnostics into consideration when we decide, how we want to work with you.
Right.
So we don't really practice in a vacuum. We're practicing integrative medicine nowadays,
Yeah, so that's what I was thinking. So it's really important that we as people go to the doctors. Like I went to the doctors today, and they stop giving you, if you don't have HPV, because they give you the pap smears for the HPV, but after a while they say, oh, you didn't need to come back, you make an appointment in 5 years. And I'm like, what? I still need gynecological care.
Yeah. Yeah, you should definitely still go every year. Or every
and
other
so
year.
One of the things that I was saying to my doctor is, and this is like TMI, but I don't care. It's my show, and somebody might need it. It's like I consider my vagina to be like quite plumpy, right? So what I term it was like the face is losing plumpy, vaginas is losing plumpy too. So it's really important. I know it sounds funny, but it's really important to get it checked.
Yeah, and make sure that you're healthy.
Yeah.
That's important.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
So we're going to take a break, and we'll be right back.
You're listening to the Talking Alternative Network.
Do you love, or are you intrigued about New York City and its neighborhoods? I'm Jeff Goodman, host of Rediscovering New York, a weekly show that showcases New York's history and its extraordinary neighborhoods. Every Tuesday live at 7 p.m., we focus on a particular neighborhood and explore its history, its vibe, its feel, and its energy. Tune in live every Tuesday at 7 p.m. on talkradio.nyc.
Talking Alternative Radio, 24 hours a day.
And we're back on Beyond Potential, Live Life Your Way, and I'm with Dr. Christian Siebert, and we are discussing menopause, or I call it the menopause story because there's a lot of stories behind it, right? Wouldn't you say?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So as we were saying offline, but we want to make sure that people know that menopause is not a disease.
It sounds like a disease, right? It's
Yes.
like a foreign
Sounds like
word.
many disease.
Yeah, many diseases. No, it's a natural transition. You know, we all go through it at some point. Most
if
women,
we're lucky, because we could die.
If we don't live that long, you know. But it can also occasionally happen that a woman will actually experience menopause much earlier in life because of illness. You know, for example, if a woman gets treated for cancer, it can put her into menopause immediately. Also, the surgical removal of the ovaries would induce menopause pretty much within a week.
Right. So you can keep the the uterus?
The uterus, yeah.
I mean, sorry, you can remove the uterus. Would you go into menopause?
No.
But if
you would no longer have menstrual periods,
Right.
but you would still have hormonal fluctuations.
right. But if you get rid of the ovaries, or the ovaries get damaged in some way,
yeah,
then you can flip into menopause.
yeah, you would go into menopause right
Right.
away.
So-
That is a common preventive surgery for women who have certain types of breast cancer. That happened to someone I know really well. And so she experienced actually menopause pretty much within a week or so after she had the ovarectomy.
Right. So menopause is not a disease, even though it comes along with a lot of symptoms. It is not a disease. What would you say to like men who are dating and married to women who are going through menopause? Batten down the hatches. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Well, some guys have to batten down the hatches because some women go off the rails.
Right, it's a huge change, and it's not just a physical change. You also experience strong emotions.
Yes, mental.
The way
emotional.
your mind works will change. So, I mean, if I had to say just one thing, talk to each other.
Right.
Reach out to each other, talk to each other, be honest with each other,
Right.
and that's a good place to start.
Right.
Don't be embarrassed about it.
And for women, you're not losing your sexy.
No, it's going to change, but there's no reason why you can't enjoy, an active sex life after menopause.
But because women talk about the dryness, some women experience profound and severe dryness.
Yeah, so there are ways you can accommodate that. You may have to be a little more careful about it. Obviously, when you experience more vaginal dryness and the wall of your vagina becomes thinner as a result of lower estrogen
Lose your
levels.
plumpie.
Well, but it's also that you are actually at a slightly higher risk for infections.
Right, cuts and stuff. And tears
yeah,
and
exactly.
things.
So you want to be a little bit more careful and mindful about that. But again, it doesn't mean it's over.
Right, you just have to learn to do it in a much more healthier way. Well, you just have to be mindful.
Noreen, I would like to know what
I'm getting a moment. I'm having a sweaty.
What things you actually have tried and found helpful so far to manage
Exercise,
the
water,
symptoms, drinking
exercise, water,
just throwing the
blankets
off.
Yeah, throwing the blankets off. There's an upside and a downside because sometimes it feels okay, sometimes it's okay, and sometimes it's not, right? But what I have learned to deal with it is just being honest about it. Like, I'm not going to stand there and sweat in front of you and have you look at me like, what the hell's going on with her? I'll just tell you I'm having a moment. I'm sweating. This is menopause. I remember when it first started, I was at a meeting at, what's the name? See, this is one of those fuzzy moments. The Russian tea room. I was at the Russian tea room, and it was the morning, and I was in this meeting with a whole world of men. There were so many men in this room, and I was talking to this guy, and all of a sudden I felt like a flash come on, and I had to tell him to stop. I went like this, just stop, because I'm like sweating right now. And he goes, "Are you okay?" I says, "No, watch and learn." Right. So he said, "What's going on? You're sweating." I said, "This is the face of menopause."
Good for you.
Right? And he was like, I said, "So watch and learn, because this is what your wife is going to go through." Right. He goes, "Can I get you a napkin?" One of the things I have noticed is when I'm just like straight about it and playful with it, men will run to get me a napkin.
Or a glass of water.
Or water or something. Or like they'll start fanning me and stuff like that. So it's like really being open and honest about it. And that's what I found, Robert. I mean, I could be talking in front of a room of, I don't know how many people. I'm like, I'm having a moment. Just give me a moment here, because I'm going to start sweating. And it does run. Some people say I can't see it, but like I can feel it. It's there. I'm moist. Yeah.
Well, actually a lot of women also in connection with these hot flashes and sweats, experience anxiety attacks. So it can also really impact how well you're actually functioning in the moment. And that can be difficult. You may be in a stressful situation. Sometimes that can even be the trigger.
Can I tell you one thing that I've realized what came out of this. So now here's the thing, right? You know, when you're not in menopause and you're in your 30s or 40s and you're not experiencing sweats and stuff like that, you can get up in the morning, and if you're late, you can just throw your clothes on and go. When you're having menopause and you're sweating all night, you cannot get up, get out. You have to get that. You have to take shower, because now I realize what that people used to talk about, that old lady smell.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Now I know what they were talking about. You have to bathe a lot. Yeah, no, well, not a lot, but you have to shower.
Rinse it off. Yeah.
You have to rinse off last night.
Yeah.
Because it's horrible. That's the first thing I do now. I don't even want to have a conversation. I just want to jump in the shower.
So one thing that I also really want to laud you for is, like, I remember a couple months ago or so, I bumped into you at the local Trader Joe's down the street from both of us.
Right.
And you were carrying these 2 big shopping bags of vegetables.
Right.
And, you know, this is one of the things that, I mean, every patient that comes to me with concerns around menopause, you know, will have a different story, and we'll work, you know, individually to find ways to support the transition, you know. But one thing I think that almost every woman would really benefit from is what you're doing, you know, to just really not only exercise, but also eat healthily, you know. And I think, you know, if you haven't already, you know, earlier, now is a really good time.
Now I know why my mother ate so many vegetables.
Get serious about, you know, kicking your addiction to
Sugar.
Processed foods,
And
sugars, and what have you, you know, and comfort foods, and really start eating, you know, off the land, you know, eat the rainbow, eat a lot of vegetables, fruit, and, you know, high quality protein. And
that has made a difference. Like when I don't eat my vegetables, I can feel the difference. It's like a complement of issues. Like if I don't exercise, I feel stiff. I feel miserable. I've got to exercise. If I don't eat properly, I feel terrible. If I eat too much sugar, I feel really bad. You know.
Yeah, all those foods, you know,
if I don't get enough
inflammatory,
sleep,
you know, they create inflammation in your body that makes you feel really crappy.
Right.
So
sleep. My newest thing is sleep.
Yeah.
So if I'm not going to any events, or if I'm not doing anything in the evening, I'm in bed by 9:45 now.
Yeah.
Because I realize, like, sleep makes a difference.
Totally.
You know, sleep helps you to maintain your shape and your figure and your health and muscle and all that kind of stuff. So because we're losing that stuff with menopause.
Right.
Firmness and tightness and muscle tone and stuff like that. So sleep has become one of my best friends.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I don't even work with one single person, or I should say, you know, not a single person's walking out of my office without getting encouragement to do lifestyle medicine.
Right.
You know, look at, you know, how they're living their lives and what things they can tweak, improve, you know, and that it includes especially food as medicine. You know, that's the foundation. Everything else that I do with them, you know, is on top of eating well.
Right.
So we really have to get the basis straight, you know, and everyone has some different needs. So
don't get me wrong. I pigged out when I went to London. I mean, it was Easter and there was like Easter eggs, and I was eating Easter eggs.
Well, I always have that, what is it, 80-20 rule or so, you know.
Well, I went kind of nuts in London and I was eating like a 5-year-old. And when I got back, I had to pay for it because I didn't exercise as much as I should have. And I was eating chocolate eggs. But, you know,
I think sometimes it's good to fall off the bandwagon, because then you realize, wow, you know, the changes I make really make a difference in how I feel. And that gives you an extra incentive to get back on.
The pain started kicking in. Or everything started kicking in when I was halfway across in the ocean. I was like, oh, God. And so my pain like sort of lives in this.
So you're still
neck
recovering
area.
Right now?
Yeah, I still am, because this morning I was like, wow, I've been working out since I've gotten back, and I feel so much better because I've been doing my exercises and I've been actually stretching a lot. So it really has made a difference.
That's so great to hear, because I always feel, you know, if you realize how much you can actually do for yourself, for your own health, you know, it's so incredibly empowering.
Right.
And that really gives you a leg up during menopause, because if you listen to your body and you start really taking care of yourself, you know, that's half the rent.
I'm doing the best that I can, right? I mean, and I think what the education, you have this book here from the what's it called, Mayo Clinic, the menopause solution?
Yeah, so often, I recommend to women who just want to get a better understanding of what's going on during perimenopause, which is the time leading up to actual menopause.
Right.
I recommend this book by a doctor who is the director of the Mayo Clinic Women's Health Clinic. Her name is Stephanie Fobian, and the book is called The Menopause Solution. To just get the lay of the land, and it has actually a lot of good suggestions for things that you can do yourself, to make yourself more comfortable, to do preventive health care, to eat better, do what you can.
Right.
And also all with the understanding that this is a natural process. And then I like, that she also says, if that is all, all you're doing is not enough, there's help beyond that. There is help from your conventional physician, and then there's also help from many other healthcare providers like myself, who practice Chinese medicine, acupuncture, or naturopathic medicine, or homeopathy, or many other things. And so the important thing then is for you to decide, what really jives with you. Maybe you're someone who's comfortable with hormone therapy. Maybe you want to try Chinese herbs or massage or acupuncture, and it can be a combination too, and bring many benefits.
So I want to ask you a question about, because when we're losing estrogen, we're losing testosterone, these things are being decreased, right?
Right.
And I was listening to a doctor on, I like this guy, on YouTube, and he says that we have to get adrenal support to help to build up the adrenals so that we can help to balance out all these other things. What do you say about that?
Well, the adrenals are obviously a very important player in our endocrine system or hormone system. And we're aware of the adrenals primarily because they wear out. This is a very informal way of describing this.
This is a layman's way of describing it.
And so especially with our lifestyle, the stress we're experiencing, the long hours we're working, living in a noisy, dirty city, with a lot of people around us.
Talk about New York like that. No, I'm kidding.
That we can trust. It creates a constant stress level that really taxes our adrenals. And these hormones all influence everything else that's going on in the body, including our reproductive system, but also our insulin production and our thyroid. So yes, it's true that we really want to take good care of our adrenals. I don't know that I would use that same word to bring them up, but supporting them is maybe how. And there are different ways to do that. A Western doctor would do it differently from how I would do it as a Chinese doctor.
Right. Yeah. And there's all these. Okay, we're going to take a break. We're going to take a break, and we'll be right back because I just thought of something. So we'll be right back.
You're listening to the Talking Alternative Network.
The best designs for your life start at home. I'm David Thiergartner, interior designer and host of At Home. Listen live Tuesday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern Time as we talk to the very best professionals about interior design and the design that's all around us, right here on talkradio.nyc.
Are you a conscious co-creator? Are you on a quest to raise your vibration and your consciousness? I'm Sam Leibowitz, your conscious consultant, and on my show, The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, we will touch upon all these topics and more. Listen live at our new time on Thursdays at 12 noon Eastern Time. That's The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, Thursdays 12 noon on talkradio.nyc.
TalkingAlternative.com.
So we're back on Beyond Potential, Live Life Your Way, and I'm speaking to Dr. Christine Siebert. And I want to know about, I've tried lots of things, right? So I've tried CBD oil, CBD gummy bears, hemp, lots of things. I've tried acupuncture, but I wasn't consistent with that. I was consistent with it when I had a back pain, and the lady lived down the street, which was perfect because it was like hop out my house down the street, but then she moved. So tell me a little bit about how acupuncture, because I do have friends that swear by it.
Right.
Work.
Yeah, certainly, as you mentioned, one of the big challenges with acupuncture is access. So, because it takes time, you're not getting a prescription and then you just take it at home.
They do in London.
You have to actually go to your acupuncturist, at least I would say once a week, make the time for it. And then it's also the expense of receiving regular acupuncture, because it's not a magic bullet. You need to, like you say, you need to stick with it for a while. And actually a lot of women find it helpful to relieve the symptoms of perimenopause, menopause, including hot flashes and night sweating can be reduced. It can also improve sleep quality. It can help relieve the anxiety and depression that some women experience, energy, foggy-headedness. So there's a lot of things that women experience in that time frame that can be alleviated with acupuncture. Right. People always ask, how does that actually work? And to be honest with you, we're still trying to figure that out.
I can tell you how it feels.
Yeah,
for me.
Yeah.
Like when I do acupuncture, I always think of it, it's like I've got all this information highway, right? And then certain parts of the highway are blocked. And what the acupuncture does, it goes into that highway. It sort of triggers that, because I can feel the little movement, like the little thing that's in the meridian, or but I think what it does for me is it literally unblocks that area, and it sort of allows it, in my naive way, to breathe again. That's how it occurs for me.
Well, some studies have shown that acupuncture stimulates the release of endorphins. Those are feel well hormones. Also the endocannabinoid system is apparently stimulated by acupuncture, but we still don't totally understand how it's working. The nervous system is probably involved, the hormone system. In Chinese medicine, we have a totally different way to actually explain what happens when we do acupuncture. It's a completely different concept, and it's very much based on energy. Right. We call the vital force or energy in the body, we call it qi, right? You've heard of it, of course. Of course. And then, we look for places in the body we can sense that where it's stagnating. And so the main purpose of acupuncture is basically, like you're saying, to release that stagnation, so that your energy actually flows. You're in the flow, and you can feel the difference. Whether we can explain it scientifically or not. I mean,
I don't care.
Exactly. Most people, when they feel better after the treatment, they agree. Something's happening. They don't even really want to know.
I did. There's a Chinese doctor that I went to in Chinatown, and she gave me all these herbs and stuff, and you have to boil them and make it down into this thick goo, right? And it's quite disgusting.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, that's a great way to take Chinese herbs, but I tell you, it's a hard sell with most people, especially here in the city, for various reasons.
She gave me all these packets wrapped and wrapped,
and it stinks up the whole house.
Smells
and
like
it's like
stinky.
Yeah, you have to be really into it.
You just you cook it, and it comes down to this one little tiny cup.
Right.
And you drink it.
It's pretty strong.
It works.
It's pretty strong.
I'm not kidding, because you give it to you for a series of days. It works. However, like most things, it wears off after a while. Do you get what I mean? It's like it stops working.
So here's something that's really special about Chinese herbal medicine. So we always do a very comprehensive history with our patients to really find out what we call, is the root and the branch. We want to know, what's bothering you, but we also want to know who you are, what your constitution is, what's going on in your life. That's what we call the root. And so when we diagnose you and then decide, how we want to treat you herbally, we basically treat the whole person, not
Right.
just the hot flashes,
Right.
but also
Yes.
your constitution. So that's, if you really get deep into that, then you can create a formula of herbs for that individual person that can really take them from A to B,
Right.
and then you modify it and it takes them from B to C. So it shouldn't really wear off. It should be modified as you're improving or as you're getting older and have different needs. And that takes certainly a lot of skill and experience,
And it takes a lot of patience on the side of the receiving.
Yeah, it's not a magic cure, it doesn't, you often find relief within just a couple of days already. You notice a change. That's sometimes amazing how quickly it works, especially when it's pretty acute. So, but on the, on those herbs, and roots that you get from the Chinese herbal pharmacy and take home and cook, I have good news for you.
Right.
In modern practice, we actually most of the time use pre-cooked herbs that come in granules.
Right.
They're measured out in a specialized herbal pharmacy, and all you have to do is measure it out and then add hot water.
Oh, and drink it like a tea.
And just drink it like a tea. And it doesn't actually taste that bad usually, especially those formulas that we use for menopause, not that bad. So it's much more convenient. It's much more consistent. Oftentimes it's also more affordable.
Right.
So it's much easier, in that format to get people to take it for a longer period of
Right.
time and get the benefits from it.
So do you think that there will ever be, I know, like we said, it's not a disease, right? And each woman is different. And some people have some symptoms and some people have no symptoms and some people have a array of symptoms. Do you think that there will ever become a time where nobody has any symptoms?
Well, I would be out of work.
Oh, yeah. Well, I always say I want to put my doctor out of work.
Well, I don't think so.
Okay.
The quick and dirty answer. But I think we're making progress understanding better what happens
Right.
during menopause, so we can really tailor our treatments more to the individual woman and her experience. And I think also by bringing, the whole discussion around menopause out into the open and supporting each other more and, talking with
So
each
what
other.
can we do? What else can we do to bring it out into the open?
Yeah, talk about it. What you're doing is a great start. I think, we need to have these conversations, not just you and I, we're both in our 50s, but
I can't
also
believe it.
with, can you believe it?
Yesterday I was just
But
16.
also, with younger women, girls,
Right. Yes.
and also with the men in our lives,
Yes.
everyone needs to
And our
be,
sons and all
yeah,
that stuff.
need to
Human.
be-
So,
Yeah,
we need to know about what's happening. Do you think men have a menopause?
Yes, they do, and it's a lot more gradual than in women. But certainly, hormone production in men, and that's mostly testosterone, also gradually declines with age.
That's why they get like breast and soft and all that kind of good stuff.
That is a factor, but it can also be maybe a little bit of too much indulgence in.
Yeah, that too. But you know what? Not for nothing. I have a friend who he said to me that he thought he was going through menopause because, and I've heard this from a couple of men actually, they feel like they're going through some kind of menopause because they're crying at things that they wouldn't ordinarily cry at. Right, they're crying at movies, or they're just feeling
More
extremely
emotional.
emotionally and
Yeah.
extremely moved by certain things.
Yeah.
So I do think men go through a menopause. They just probably go for it differently, and
Right.
they probably just sit in their little caves and do.
And
their
I
little
imagine
man
that they
thing.
probably have even more trouble, talking about
Expressing,
it,
yeah.
honestly with each other, and yeah.
So
So
I
we're
think,
starting a good thing here, Noreen.
right, 3 minutes. So I think that if we talk about it for ourselves, our men will talk about it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Christiane, I just want to thank you so much for coming on the show. It
Thank
was
you so
awesome.
much
I would be
for
more than
having me,
happy to have you
Noreen.
again. This is a very serious conversation.
Yeah.
And we have to think about the young people, the young women, that we're going to leave behind. We want to leave them feeling good about themselves and feeling good about menopause.
I would like to say one thing for
Your website and all that
for
good stuff.
anyone who's interested in learning more about an integrative, holistic approach to menopause. I would invite you to visit my blog on my website, serenityhealtharts.com. you can Google it or just go to the URL. And I recently posted a 3-part series on menopause, and it has a lot of useful information. I think I also in the last article have several tips for self-care, including spirituality. So it really covers the whole range.
Right.
Yeah, and if you have more questions, of course, you can always reach me through the website.
Right.
Serenity
So give us the website
Health
again.
Art, serenityhealtharts.com.
Great.
Thank
So
you, Noreen.
thank you so much for being on the show. And
It's
thank
been a
you to
pleasure.
all the people that listened. And there's a bunch of men on it as well. So that's really great. Thank you for joining. This is Noreen Sumter on Beyond Potential, Live Life Your Way. If you'd like to have further conversations with me about coaching, reach me at NoreenSumterCoach.com. If you're interested in participating and coming on the show because you have something that you're burning to share, please reach me at Noreen at NoreenSumterCoach.com or www.talkradio.nyc. I'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.
You're listening to the Talking Alternative Network.